Ciara, I hope you are doing well. I read that you were photographing like nature, love for nature, and that type of thing, which I too have the same affinity for. I've spent most of my life out in the woods or the swamps or now the desert living in Arizona. Yeah, I spent a lot of time out in the world, out in nature, and it's probably my way of decompressing. And right now I live at the base of the Superstition Mountains where I sit out in my front porch and watch the eagles and hawks fly by and have coyotes and rattlesnakes in my yard, and it's kind of like the perfect place for me. And absolutely love it here. But anyway, to your photographs. Yeah, so I think this is like maybe the purple flower you were talking about, one of the ones you're the happiest with. Um, and for me, it's really beautiful. It's a little bit underexposed though. It needs to be brighter. Like really want to see the flower really jump out from this background. Um, so I don't know if you have like a Photoshop or a Lightroom or anything like that where you can increase like the exposure and then take the shadows and just kind of or the darks and make the darks darker, make the blacks blacker. So make the background just darker and the flowers actually brighter, just so there's more separation between the foreground and the background, and make the flowers really like pop out and jump out at you. So really really beautiful. So the idea is how do we emphasize that or how do you push that further visually? And that's the best thing I could come up with at the moment. Or I mean, if you were ideally if you were to rephotograph it, you'd have like a light, you'd have your camera on a tripod, then you'd have a maybe a handheld flash up here pointing down like right on top of the light so that none of the background gets lit. You can play with artificial lighting and those kind of things too. There is a photographer that I went to school with here named Ryan Para, and his name is, I think it's ryanparaphotography.com. And his last name is spelled Parra, so Ryan, Ryanparra, photography. Look him up. He has like some of those beautiful photographs of plants that you could never imagine. That are all done like inside of his studio, right next to just a light coming in from a window, and that's all. They're really beautiful. Um, yeah, these are nice too. This composition is okay. Like, I like this composition is a little bit stronger here. With this, I feel like I'm probably supposed to be looking at this one here. But I get, maybe this is a little distracting, and over here, like, oh, I kind of want to look at all of it. So try to find a way to isolate this more, whether it's a shallower depth of field, or a little bit lighter, or making the background darker, that kind of thing. This is really nice though. I really like your perspective. You're down, you're looking up. This beautiful light right along the pine needles here is just beautiful. Just gorgeous golden yellow light coming in. It's awesome with this golden color versus this contrast of the like kind of the silhouetted shadows back here of the branches. So it works really really well. And you did a good job. It's like the skies aren't blown out. A lot of times, what I've been seeing, people photograph up, the skies are so bright and so blown out that you lose all these details. You lose all these branches, and you lose all this like beautiful light that comes in. But it's obvious this was either, I would guess to say that it's sunrise, but it may be sunset at a better time of day. We don't have these big blown out skies. So yeah, good job. And this gets, it's the kind of like a little bit nature in your backyard. I don't know, maybe I kind of like it because I feel like we're in like this little cubby hole almost, trying to like peer through into someone else's yard. So it's almost like a voyeuristic kind of thing. It's not quite as much about nature for me. It doesn't do nature for me as much, but it feels more intimate or intrusive, possibly. Yeah, just be aware of those kind of things. Of just, it's not a right or wrong thing, but just that's just my response to what you're showing me. And this feels more like back to the plants, back to nature. Um, I would like, I think I want you to get like a little bit closer, maybe just have just this in focus, move the, move this out of the way. Like you're totally allowed to move things out of the way in photography. Feel free to move a scene if you want to. There's no rule that says you can't do that. So if it were me, I would maybe take this and just move it out of the way gently and then focus right here. And then the rest of the composition is great. But if I were to focus just on this, and so these are really, really sharp, and then have the rest of this kind of out of focus, I think it'd be a little bit more successful. but the composition is really solid. This is really nice. It's not doesn't have that same feel as the other one, like a voyeuristic feel. Your exposures are really solid with really all of these. The colors look really good. Um, and this has a really nice feel. It's just visually inviting. You know, the broken fence kind of winding through and nature kind of taking over. I kind of get that from it, like nature's taking back, is we'll reclaim one day once people are long and gone. The planet will live on. Yeah, this is a little bit kind of straightforward for me. Just kind of like there's the palm tree. It's nice though. I'm glad you don't have just kind of the as straightforward as a palm tree as a kind of the entire trunk and everything else. I do like that these are dead, and the thing needs to be trimmed down a bit. It's a different perspective than normal. This becomes a little more voyeuristic again, and kind of sneaking through, looking through the other side, and it becomes a different feel. But the details are nice. And this is very nice too. I love how this is kind of where I feel like you want us to look. This is underbelly of the leaf here, and it's really beautiful. In contrast, the light is really perfect on it. It's a very nice photograph. And this is great too. In contrast to everything else, it's kind of like dead branches or just coming back to life branches. It gets maybe a little bit noisy. It looks like you have some weird colors going on, like kind of like a weird strip of color. Um, so maybe just the ISO on your camera couldn't quite handle a little bit too dark. That'd be kind of my only thing. Technically, I would have an issue with it. But this is great here. Love the composition. Love getting really close and tight this and the textures and feeling it and the light and the dark. Ideally, you would see just a little bit more shadows, or a little bit more detail in the shadows here. But overall, it works pretty well. Um, so I know this is like your love for nature, and a lot of these are like very beautiful. My suggestion and my challenge to you would be like, what is not beautiful about this, or what's kind of the opposite of that? Like, what about poison ivy or poison oak, or what about in the desert? There's so many cactus out here, and so many things that just hurt you if you touch them. So I would like kind of think about those explorations instead of just beauty or beauty for a point of function, or what trying to go deeper into your love of nature and plants and everything. Just try to think in different terms and definitely look up Ryan's work. He'll give you kind of different ideas too. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And good luck with everything else you have going on.